iPredict works by gathering the knowledge of its 5,000 plus traders. If a stock has a price of 57 cents, that means the market thinks that event has a 57% chance of happening. If you agree, you buy. If you disagree, you short. And if you're right, you make money. Kia ora, good evening New Zealand. This is day 8 until the country goes to the polls. Welcome to iPredict Election 2011, the most accurate source of political and economic information in New Zealand broadcasting. Our 3 predictions tonight. Prediction 1. The iPredict market suggests the Epsom Tea Party tapes have dented the National Party, with the odds of John Key being Prime Minister plummeting for the first time from a 94% probability to an 85% probability, the largest slump since the election started. Has the strategy of attacking the media backfired? Prediction 2. In massive trading today, New Zealand first soars over 6% party vote and settles over 5.5%. Can Winston really re-enter Parliament, and what are the ramifications? Prediction 3. At a 55% probability, Damien O'Connor is tipped to win back West Coast-Tasman, but how much trouble are Labour in the provinces? To dissect these predictions, let me introduce tonight's strategic chess battle panel. He is a former National Party research boss, earning him the nickname Eye of Mordor, Neil Miller, and he is the strategic Yoda of the political left, Herald on Sunday columnist and union boss, Matt McCarten. Welcome to you both. We'll also wrap the show with a final prediction, but let's kick things off with tonight's first market prediction. In the wake of the Epsom Tea Party tapes, John Key has called in the police, had 4 broadcasters searched, walked out on press conferences and refused to answer questions. The mainstream media landline polls say this has barely dented John Key, but the iPredict market is saying there is a massive movement away from National. Matt, the strategy with the National, who have been polling furiously since the tape surfaced, is that the public hate journalists more than they hate politicians. But don't the public hate journalists because they don't hold politicians to account? How sustainable is John Key's war on the news media 8 days out from an election?
None. I don't think it's any impact at all. In fact, it's the opposite. About whether that people believe that the media are up to mischief or not is not actually important. The thing is it's all bad. It's that what it is, it's that he mishandled it from day one. You know, I think that John Armstrong this morning in the column, he's talking about this is a bit like the Muldoonist thing, you know, he's sort of, I'll get the cops, and people are just thinking, hold a minute. Why it's a game changer, it's that it's a perception now that Key is not the man we thought he was. Right. And that's why it's changed. Now, it won't show up in the polls, and you know, and we all know that. It doesn't show up in the polls for a while. There's always a lag. There'll be people still say, no, it's fine, but as the days go on, see the problem with this story, it just keeps giving and giving and giving. So it is going to play, and the iPredict crew, they know that, and that's why they're starting to vote on it now.
It's a little bit like, I put this question to Grant Robinson a couple of days ago, when Helen Clark painted that painting, and it wasn't really her, and she just signed it off. That wasn't so much the issue, but having people buy it and burn it afterwards, that was what made everyone go, is it the way you react to the mistake?
Yes, it is, and we all know that. You see, look, if Key had just said, you know, I mean, the smart move, I don't know who gives him advice. I mean, I think he gives himself his own advice, but he's let himself down. The smart thing would have been, because the Herald on Sunday said we're not running the tape. So instead of attacking the press, he should have got on the phone, phoned the air editor, Bryce Johns. That's a good guy, actually. He just said, John, Bryce, I just want you to know I appreciate the stand you made. I think it was a principled position, and you know, there were some things on there I'm sure a bit embarrassing. I appreciate it. It's not newsworthy. Then he can go to the press and say, I've spoken to the Herald editor, and he said he's not going to release it, and I want to thank him for that, because it would have been a little embarrassing. John and I had a private conversation. It would have ended the story like that. Immediately. But even better, he would have made sure the story was closed down. Now it's too late.
Neil, attacking the media in the hope to cover up embarrassing comments is one thing, but justifying gagging the police by comparing the tapings to phone hacking the families of a murdered child, suggesting that such tapes released publicly might cause youth suicide, and claiming that because crime has dropped by 7%, police had spare time to look into his complaint, seems unhinged, doesn't it?
Well, he's had to make a decision. He's basically said, I don't think this tape was obtained legally, so that's a matter of principle. You can talk a lot about his response to issues, but you can't put aside the fact that something very unusual happened.
Yeah.
That someone did try to covertly record the Prime Minister in his public duties.
I didn't try, he did.
Well, okay, they did. And I mean, one of the reasons the Herald backed away from the story was they must have got their lawyers saying, well, we think this is dangerously close to being illegal and we can't be associated with it.
Yeah.
So that made the whole response issue tricky.
But is it comparable to phone hacking murdered kids' families?
It's comparable to a lot of the phone hacking that the News of the World did. It wasn't all the murdered kids. They were doing football stars, politicians, royals.
Absolute nonsense. No, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. You are putting the spin in, right? It's got nothing, and it demeans what happened at News International. They deliberately targeted people. They got their phone numbers. They illegally hacked. What this was, it was not done illegally. It was recorded. The guy went to there to get his tape back, and the Nats wouldn't give it back to him, and so it sat on there. It was an accident. Look, all the politicians around the world, and no. Just recently, you had Sikorsky and Obama in thing. You know, two journalists. The feed was on. It was an accident, but it's public. John McCain's been through it. Bush has been through it.
If you look at the sequence of events that have to go through,
it was a political stunt that went
wrong. The microphone has to be on. The camera has to be on. He has to be hitting the record button all the time. There's no way it's an accident. And if it is legitimately recorded, then why aren't all the papers releasing it? Why are they running around saying, I've got a transcript, have a look at this little bit of the transcript? If it's legitimately recorded, report it.
Do you think, though...
well, I agree with that.
They know it's not.
Do you think, though, it's a little bit on the nose for John Key to say, look, I'm standing up for the principle of not being recorded silently, secretly, when this is the Prime Minister who ran through legislation to retrospectively allow the police to have those very powers? I mean, to stand up for that principle now seems a little shoolish, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, the difference is being in the public eye enough to justify being surveyed, or do you need some sort of suspicion essentially to trigger that? And that's the difference between bugging someone you suspect is a serious criminal or a terrorist, or just bugging someone because they're a politician. And I think it's a very dangerous precedent. If we let this one sort of slide, then covert bugging is tacitly accepted.
But surely, well, I mean, I think most New Zealanders will agree with you. If it had been bugged in his bedroom, or if he'd been bugged in a private office or something like that. But this was a press stunt that went bad. And what expectation does the Prime Minister have of not being recorded when he's in a cafe talking with the political leader of another party over information which actually come into the grounds of public interest?
Well, I think, he did part of it with the press there, and then he asked them to leave. And I think when you ask them to leave, then you have a reasonable expectation of privacy.
But they're outside the window.
No, but let's get back to it. There were other customers still in the cafe. It was not a private room. Right. It was a public place. The media were on the other side of the window. They had other customers and staff were in the cafe, and what they're doing is they're just talking, right? It's just sort of like, this is a stunt and something. And that's why I think it's fair game. Now, whether it was taped by accident or not, and I believe it was, but let's just say that the press then put a microphone, they've got those things as where they can aim it at a window and tape it anyway. I think it's fair game because it was a political event. And I think that's the difference. Question to both of you. It means everything.
By referring this to the police, John Key has painted himself into a bit of a corner here, hasn't he? Because as much as he wants to talk about policy, the only issue the media will want to discuss are the tapes. How does he get out of this? How does he get out?
I think the question's based on an assumption that if he had released the tapes or if he'd had a different response, the media would have stopped talking about it. And I don't think they would have. I think that they enjoy being part of the story. They enjoy being celebrities. They enjoy being picked up by the international media. And they would have kept going on and on about it. And so this is his way of trying to close down the story, successful or not. But I didn't see, as soon as he made the decision not to release the tape, it was always going to end to this if the media wouldn't just let it go. And in fact, they've just got worse.
But the media have. I mean, let's reflect on his 3 years. John Key said all sorts of ridiculous things. He's made cannibalism jokes. He's made jokes about spending money on BMWs. He did the gay mincing, the camp thing. He's done a whole, and he's who we'd like to sort of get busy with. He's done these things, and New Zealand forgives him because, that's old roguish, crazy old John Key. He could probably have gotten away with this as well. Why the heavy-handed response?
I think it's the pressure of the election campaign.
Right.
I think it's a different, and on a lot of those occasions, he was being himself. He is a lot more controlled and scripted in the election environment. And I think one of the tricky or the longer term issues with this kind of covert recording and almost the kind of social media atmosphere is if we think our politicians are overly scripted and formal and legalistic now, if we go down this route where everything they say is recorded and analysed, they will become even more robotic and they'll lose that touch. Whatever touch they have.
Stephen Joyce has made some terrible decisions here as strategist, hasn't he? Hasn't he?
Oh, is he a strategist?
Well, that's who's
you
running
mean
this.
a one about to be sacked strategist? Yes. Look, it's been a disaster, right?
Yep.
This election was a coronation. This wasn't an election.
Yeah.
And we talk about the cracking. You see, Gough didn't get any licence at all. People, the media have been at him and at him and at him, myself included. You know, and every day he gets up, you know, and he keeps going.
Yep.
Key has one slip, falls and cracks. Now that's why it's important, because it talks about character and about toughness. Key has had a dream run. He's had a dream run. The media have loved him. He's been
honeymoon's over though.
The honeymoon's over, baby. So what has happened is, I think it's important because it showed us the depth of character. Now, why they don't want the tape, you're right. If it was just something, a bit embarrassing, right? But they talked about real stuff. They talked about, you know, this is kind of two political guys talking about the leader of Brash. You know, he's a strange cat, isn't he? You know, he's a bit nutty. You know, what are we going to do with him, right? You know,
How is that news?
Oh, that's news. That's news because, as you know, no, it's what everyone knows, but having the Prime Minister and Banks talking about it, that's significant politically, and that's why it's important. And then the other thing about this dismissive of the oldies around Winston, this is, you know, he's let Winston up. And so the oldies are going, that's how you really think of me. You know, and that's why it's important.
Question to both of you: at an 85% chance of John Key being Prime Minister, would you buy because New Zealanders love John Key regardless, or short because a backlash is brewing?
Oh, look, I think he'll get through this 5th game breaker the way he got through the first 4. I think, that's
it's
still
a
great
definite buy
odds.
for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Are you shorting?
I would, yes, I mean you would, because we don't know now, because suddenly the whole thing's changed. You know, yes, you'd have to sort of still think, well, I think the thing of thinking now, the Nats are going to get over the 50% have gone. I think that iPredict, and a lot of people predict to get over the halfway mark.
That's right.
I think now that's changed, and I think, look, I saw Phil Gough yesterday. I've never seen him so animated.
Oh,
you know?
really?
See, and I know, and you know, we all know about campaigns, right? You win it in your head.
Yeah.
And it's about momentum. Here's the momentum. Winston, because of Key. Key is stalled, you know, and panicking and seemed to panic. Act now is panicking. Like, who wants to be in there? Act now. Like, even when they say they're trying to help you, they're killing you inadvertently.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the other momentum is Gough now thinks, because he's had it so bad, any news for Liam now is good.
It's good news, right?
And I've seen him. His head's good.
Thank you, panel. Let's move on to prediction 2. Since appearing on this show last week, Winston Peters has climbed and climbed in the market, and today, as the Epsom Tea Party fiasco brews, he topped 6%. Can he do it, Neil? How could a media stunt supposed to assure national or right-wing coalition manage to give fuel to New Zealand first? How worried should National Party strategists be?
I think they should be relatively concerned. I mean, Winston, I thought was always going to get around 3 to 4%. And, you know, this was a guy that was polling at 2.7% consistently, having done nothing for 2.5 years. So he was always going to come to life. He just had to find his issue. And here he sort of found it, and he found it late, because initially, when the tapes were first talked about, he was, these are disgraceful, shouldn't be allowed, you know, news of the world. He was using that phrase early on. But then when he must have
saying that Winston is not an opportunist.
That would not count as news in any context. But you know, then when he heard the rumours about what might be in there, then he got into it, and then drip feeding it here and drip feeding it there, and flashing the crocodile
making most
smile.
of it up, of course.
And I mean, whether there's even a reference to it in there, you know, the fact that he's so adamant there is makes me question it. But he's really used it wisely.
No. The information is there. There's three things. I mentioned 2. The other one was they were very snarky about the Greens and about their voters, and apparently they said it'll dip in the last week because their people are losers and they don't vote.
Well, it does traditionally dip in the last
Well,
week.
exactly,
But,
but it was sort
You wanna
of
follow it up with the
it was that
big
sarcasm, and I
yeah,
think
yeah.
what's more, it's that I think the embarrassment of the tape, because then the public will see Key in a different light than what he is now. And that's
Matt,
that's why
however,
they're panicking.
this is a plague on everyone's house, though, isn't it? Because Winston will frustrate Green ambitions, Mana Party ambitions, and Labour Party's ambitions. Winston might prevent National from forming a government, but he'll kill off anything left-wing and progressive. won't he?
Oh, that Winston is the Tea Party.
Right.
No, I mean, yeah, the movement in the States I'm talking about. Yes, I mean, I did my column for the Herald on Sunday this morning, and it's very much as putting them into the two camps, the centre-left bloc and the centre-right bloc, which parties are which. And Winston's got one of its own. It's called Who Knows? You know, because this is just straight up. I mean, you know, I like Winston in terms of a show and his charming charisma, right? But he's completely untrustworthy. He's a complete opportunist. He tells fibs. He does exactly the opposite when it gets in there, you know. But anyway, I think that the people who vote for them are just the angry vote, and they alienate and they want a champion. And you know, Winston will play hard. So he is a player. Will he be there? Yes, I think, because it's about momentum.
Right.
It's about momentum, and I think
And the perception of momentum.
perception is everything, and he's just come at exactly the right time, as you're saying this. Who would have thought the media have been deliberately strangling him in the back room of oxygen? You know, you're one of the few who's had him on. He's been desperate for it. This has given him everything. He's now the story. You know, Houdini is back.
Question to both of you: if he gets over 5%, what will Winston want?
Well, he's been quite clear that he doesn't want to go into government with either party. So,
But do you believe
no,
that?
of course I don't believe that. I would imagine
He won't go in with National because Key won't have him.
Right. Yeah.
And Gough has pretty much ruled it out as well, which was a complicating factor. That's
Goff's
why
been very
much.
sort of
Kind of,
shadowy, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Originally it was no, but now as the numbers start changing, it's.
But of course, only the National Party does shady deals. You know?
well,
But this is very much a little dance that's going on.
Right.
My guess would be that he would want Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Racing, and something for one of his underlings, maybe Andrew Williams, Minister of Local Government.
Okay, well, you're just being
that'd be good
mischievous
TV.
here. No, he won't go into government. I mean, he can't. He can't.
Right.
That what he
Can he be a minister outside government?
No, he won't do it. I don't think he'll do it, right? This is about redemption. This is about the man who just comes back, you know? I don't think he's given much thought to what happens afterwards, right? It's just saying, I've shown everyone, you know, I'm back, you know, and he will enjoy himself. I think he will stick to the cross benches. He's been both of them before. He's had his butt kicked. This is about him retiring on his own terms in the future and coming clean and doing a makeover of his reputation. That's what this is about. And he will not go into government. I think he'll demand things. Might get something sort of racing.
What will he sell for supplying confidence? What does he want for it?
No, I think he'll sit there. This is what I think he'll do. I think he'll sit there and say, "You all sort it out because we're just here to keep you honest. That we are there going to do it issue by issue. Because when it comes to a confidence issue, he's not past just sitting there and just saying." We'll abstain because we're here to keep you honest. So you sort out who's going to be the government, and we'll hold you accountable.
Do you think he has that patience? Do you think he has that patience and that ability to stay out of the spotlight until there's a decision to be made?
He'd be in the absolute spotlight, because don't forget, if there's a minority national government or national government,
and United Future,
you know, well,
if Peter gets
and
there,
predictions, iPredict has got some views on that. You know, I hope it goes down. You know, I'll get my plug-in or knife in. But he will get more attention. Wouldn't that just be his dream?
Issue by issue.
Issue by issue. And just saying,
so you're saying
we're here to keep it... Oh, look,
3
it
years
just
of
keeps
being
giving
the
and
kingmaker instead of being
giving and giving and giving.
Yeah.
And if they called a new election, even better. Even better. You see, you've got to understand Winston's psychology. It's not actually about, you know, politics in the government. This is about Winston being redeemed, about all the slights he's had, you know, being pissed on from high thing. So it's psychological. I think that that's what he'll do.
With a market at 5.5% party vote for New Zealand first, would you buy, hold, or short? Do you think he's going to get over 5.5?
No.
You think he's going to get under?
It looks at the moment like he might just get over. He's going to have to watch the specials. The specials kill him most times because he doesn't pick up much.
They do.
So, you know, it's more than I expected, but he's looking increasingly likely to break 5.
5? But you see him in 5?
I'd love to see him at 4.9.
But you see him at 5?
Yeah, 5.
Okay, what do you see him at?
I'd put my house on it.
Whoa.
I think he'll go well over 6. Because I think it's about momentum. Because I think, you see, what's not happening is the Labour vote's not moving.
No.
You see, and so people have made their minds up about Labour. See, it's the Green surge and now Winston Peters surge.
Do you think he's going to pick up from the don't knows?
It's going from the don't knows
Okay.
because they've got a reason. See, has Labour given them anything to vote for in the last 2 weeks? When they, going up, the age going up, capital gains, it's a bit disconnected from them, the $15 thing, but it's a mixture.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's the angry vote, alienated vote, and there's more of it, and they haven't seen Labour yet. So unless Labour moves, at the moment doesn't seem they are, then it's going to go to Winston.
Thank you, panel. Moving on, prediction 3. It's 1 year to the day since the Pike River disaster. It's been a year when National Party ministers and the Prime Minister have spent much more time in the West Coast than in a normal year. The Labour stronghold went national in 2008 and has remained highly marginal ever since, with iPredict swinging between incumbent Chris Ockenville and Labour challenger Damien O'Connor. As a matter of pure party pride, Labour wants to win the seat back, and if it can't win West Coast-Tasman, what hope is there for anywhere else? Neil, how much trouble are Labour in the provinces?
I think they're in significant trouble in the provinces, and I think they know that. They know where their strengths are and they know where their pressure points are, as all parties do. And I think they know that they're having trouble connecting to the voters, that they're having trouble getting traction on the issues. Public transport in Auckland, very important for your Auckland voters, but almost a point of contention for other people who feel they're paying for it. And a lot of the national MPs who have come into areas that didn't traditionally have national MPs, people have said, well, actually, they're pretty good people, and they've worked hard. And the key factor is keeping them up there. So, yeah, I absolutely think, Auckland Central and West Coast are talismanic seats for Labour. They'll want it back. I think it's accurate that both iPredict and the polls are switching between the two. My limited experience on the coast, people are still very divided about Damien O'Connor.
Really?
He's very popular in some areas, less popular in others. For me, I think he's a genuinely nice guy. But, his chances are just over 50-50.
Matt, Damien O'Connor infamously referred to Labour as a gaggle of gays. If winning the provinces means redneck dog whistles that turn off core urban voters, wouldn't a concerted two-tick campaign in the cities benefit Labour rather than damaging the brand chasing the provinces? Can they do without the provinces?
No. Sort of not in terms of credibility. They lost them all apart from Palmerston North.
That's right.
And they've got to win some back because otherwise they are, a marginalised,
not a national party.
Cities. And that's why the threat to the Waimakere area seat, there's some threat there. They've got to hold on to it. So it's just holding on to it. I think that Damien, he will win the West Coast back. And for the very reasons you just said about the gaggle of gays, it's a kind of an anti-urban thing and a resentment against them, and so he's in touch with that. I am, because the Pike River has been stuffed up, I think he'll win it. I think the other seats they need to win, like New Plymouth with Andrew Little there in the provinces, they need to win it back and they need to hold on to Palmerston North. So if they could get West Coast back, if they could get New Plymouth, if they can get keep Palmerston North and hold on to Waimakere, I think that that's sufficient enough to know as they're on their way back. But they're not going to get any more.
I would agree. Getting those 4 seats back would be an amazing result. I would predict them to get maybe 2 of those. I think they are going to struggle in some of those areas.
No, and I agree. It's not in the bag at all. But I'm just saying they've got if they can win that, they're back. If they don't win them,
question to both of you. The provinces can look past their party political affiliations and elect representatives who will best promote their interests. Could the see Andrew Little beat Jonathan Young in New Plymouth? I mean, New Plymouth is a place that doesn't feel that it gets the kind of respect that it deserves. They're looking for a representative who has a national appeal. Does Young have that over Little?
I'm not sure Young has a national appeal, but he's been a good, solid MP. I think the issue for Andrew Little is that his campaign has been unusual. He started quite late. He kept his jobs quite late into the period, and this whole question when he's asked, if you don't win the electorate, but you get in on the list, will you move here? And he's basically said no.
That was a mistake.
That's great.
That was a mistake, wasn't it? That was a terrible mistake.
However, I mean, yes, because it shouldn't matter in that, but the provinces, we're from Auckland, right? So we look at it a different way, so sorry. I'm sorry, the mainstream. But it's very much I think that's right. I think he is a local boy, and so it's the sort of thing as a list MP, if he wants to win the seat, he needs to win it next time. If he doesn't win it this time, he's got to win it next time. So it is a small margin. But to be honest, right, it was always going to be a hard seat to win. You know, that was Harry Duynhoven's seat.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
it wasn't a Labor seat.
No.
So I don't think that if he doesn't win it, and I hope he does,
Yeah.
you shouldn't read too much into it. You know,
Yeah.
but I think he made a tactical mistake.
Yep.
And I think he should have started the campaign a lot earlier.
Yes.
And although he had been in there as the president of the party and that, but here's the thing, right? If National wins, then the whole thing about having a high-profile MP becomes less important, right? Because you want someone who's in the government.
Yeah.
If National loses, or it's marginal, is having the future potentially of the leader of the party as a provincial MP, you know,
pretty huge,
for
isn't
that, is pretty good. So I think they've got to weigh up is who's their local MPs and nobody, you know, sort of versus a guy who actually is going to be a big player in the country in due course, who will look after the interests of provincial
I think what you've got to look, when you look at all these seats, what they have in common with Damien O'Connor and Harry Duynhoven and Nikki Kay have in common is that they have a bit of license to have a flick at their party, to be seen to be standing up to their constituents. So they get a little more latitude. They can say a bit ruder things about, you know, Auckland, Wellington and their party hierarchy. And that gives them, you know, a veneer at least of independence and sort of, you know, really...
Simon Bridges certainly has that level of independence, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he's certainly been able to say a lot of things that other MPs couldn't have. And I think that's important because if you just sit in the provinces and toe the party line, it's difficult.
You're dead.
It's difficult.
But that's the same with all seats about where, you know, I mean, that Nikki Kay is an example, although it's not a provincial, you know, is that she's got to be the most liberal MP because if she's not, you know,
she could come out and attack mining.
With final question for both of you then, with the market predicting O'Connor at 55%, would you buy, hold or short?
I'd short, but I think that's pretty good odds. That's about right.
Right.
Yeah.
Buy, hold, short?
I'd buy.
You'd buy.
Yep.
Thank you, panel. Let's wrap the show with final prediction. Neil, your final prediction this evening is?
National 48%. That's what I always thought they were going to get. So, you know, I think the iPredict crowd are right that it's going to be less than 50, but then I always thought it was going to be less than 50. So, always 48 on the nose.
Matt, your final prediction this evening?
I predicted yesterday at 48. But so I don't want to be the same. So if he's arguing for 48, I guess I'll go for 46.
46?
And hope it drops further.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Neil. To my final prediction, we are seeing unprecedented movement on the market as the market starts to correct against the National Party win towards a possible Labour Party win. I have always said that the mainstream media polls, with their deeply flawed landline bias and a recession that's steep, were not representing public opinion well, and that this election would be down to the wire. With ACT possibly out, United Future in danger, and a split Māori party fighting off Mana, John Key may have no coalition partners at all. We will see you Monday for the final week of this fascinating election. Follow me on my Citizen Bomber Twitter and Facebook accounts for all my latest election update. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week, 7 p.m, for iPredict Election 2011, exclusively on Stratus TV. Until then, get trading.